In today's video, I'm going to share 6 takeaways from Jesse Itzler's My Life is My Message speech at Runningman 2023. So, my name is Mario Minert. I'm a performance coach, entrepreneur, and endurance athlete. And I got to go to Running Man Festival 2023 last week. It was a 3-day running festival put on by All Day Running Company. And there was running portion, there were public speakers, there was a concert, there were food trucks, there was the world's largest sauna and cold plunge. There was all of that, but one of the best parts was getting to hear Jesse Itzler speak. If you have never heard him speak before, you need to do it. He is one of the top motivational speakers in the entire world, and he gave a speech which was called My Life is My Message. And basically, it kind of, the story behind it, it all comes from Gandhi, where they had asked him, like, what are some of the key parts of your life that you want to pass on? And what he had said was that my life is my message. And what he's saying with that is the way that I live my life is what I want people to take away. And nobody has really modeled this better for me as a young entrepreneur than Jesse Itzler, who is a 5-time selling, I guess I don't even know how to say that. He sold 5 different businesses, started and sold 5 different businesses. He's an endurance athlete, has done 100-mile ultras, has done Ultraman. He's also a coach, public speaker, and he's an amazing, dedicated dad. And so when I think about the buckets that matter the most to me, impact, family, adventure, endurance, business, he's the one who checks all of those boxes. And that's, I think, what makes him one of the best speakers in the world. You really just need to hear him speak live. Now, in this speech, he basically talked about if he were to write down the key phrases, the key lessons on a napkin to pass on to generations, to pass on to family, what would those things be? He basically talked through all of those in his speech. And what I want to do today is I want to share what are some of the takeaways from that speech so that you can apply it to your life. So the first thing is, what is your word for the year? So every single year, everybody sets goals. Everybody sets different New Year's resolutions. One of the things that Jesse does is he tries to pick one word that embodies how he wants to show up that upcoming year. And the word for the past 5 or 6 years that he's chosen is soul. And when he says soul, what he means by that is he doesn't want to do anything unless he puts his soul into it. And this was a really big takeaway for me because sometimes you get lost in the goal, you get lost in the metrics, you get lost in what you're trying to accomplish, and you lose sight of how you're doing it along the way, because the way that you do it really matters. It's not just about building the business. It's not just about doing the race. The way that you do it matters. And so what is your word for the year? It's something I'm going to be thinking about coming up as we're starting to plan for 2024. So that was the big thing that he started talking about. The next thing that he started talking about is his relationship with time. And time is undefeated, according to Jesse. It's like all of us, we are born, we grow up as kids, we go to school, we go to college, we get a job. Eventually, time catches up with us, and time always wins because we're all going to die. And so what he says is the only way to beat time is by putting the things that you love, the experiences that you love, and doing that with the people that you love, putting those things on the calendar. And the reason why is when you do those things, you come away with experiences. You come away with memories that time can never take away from you. And so we think about our relationships with all of these different people, with our spouse, with our family, with our friends. But do you ever think about your relationship with time? Because a lot of times, if it's not intentional, then you're just going to be going through the motions. And Jesse is somebody who is so urgent with his time that it really inspires you to go after the things that you love. It inspires me to keep doing races and adventures and experiences just like I did at Running Man, and to keep doing things like this, recording this video right now, because this is something that nobody can ever take away from me. And this is something that can continue to be out there for a long period of time. So the second thing to think about is, what is your relationship with time? The third thing is one of the most powerful things that I think he talked about, and that's the difference between can versus will. And so he told this story where he was a young up-and-coming entrepreneur, and at the time he was a rapper, and he was creating different jingles for sports teams. And somebody that he was kind of pitching his company to said that he would give him $10,000 if he got 10% of anything that Jesse created in from that point in time to the future. And at that time, he had like less than $1,000 in his bank account. And to him, like $10,000 was a ton of money. And he went to a friend's father to talk about this deal and if he should take it or not. And at the time, his friend's dad was a very successful businessman. He was a part owner in a professional sports team. And what he asked Jesse was, Jesse, if you don't take the money, like, will you make this work? And Jesse's like, yeah, like I can, like, I definitely think I can make it work. And he slams his fist on the table and he says, no, I didn't ask you if you can do it. I asked, will you do it? And that's when he really understood the difference of can versus will. And this is where you need to ask yourself, what are you willing to do to accomplish your goals? And this is so like powerful for me because I'm at the point where I'm going all in on my business and really doing everything that I can to make it work. And sometimes that's filled with like some doubt. Sometimes it's filled with some uncertainty. But this is where I really need to ask myself, like, what am I willing to do? And it's not just if I can make it work, because I know I can make it work. It's a matter of, will I make it work? And most of the time, the difference is just like what you are willing to do, the work that you're willing to put in, the endurance that you're willing to have, the grit that you need to have over a long period of time in order to make it work. And so if you're watching this, my question is not just like, can you make it work? It's, will you make it work? And that was a huge takeaway for me. So the fourth thing that was written on his napkin is, the words that you speak matter. The words that you speak matter. He told the story about how he was getting ready to compete in the last man standing ultramarathon. And he had this, he was doing these different training runs, and every single time he would get to like mile 38, he would slow down and he couldn't, like, he would just hit this wall and he couldn't work past it. And that's when he started reaching out to different ultramarathon runners and finding people who could help him break through this wall and break through this barrier. And you've maybe encountered this experience before, if it's in a run, if it's in your business, if it's when you're trying to like be consistent with your habits, where you feel like you reach a point where you can't go any further. That's when he got connected with Chad Wright. And Chad Wright is one of the best ultramarathoners in the world. And he cold called him and he said, hey, like, Chad, my name is Jesse Itzler. I need some help. I'm trying to get through the 38 mile mark. And Chad is this younger guy. He's from Georgia. He's got this Southern accent. And he's like, yes, I can definitely make this happen for you. And there's like 3 different things that we're going to work on. The first is to pay attention to the language that you're using. And you've got to take quitting off the table. And so, like, the main part that he talks about is you can never give your pain a voice in a race. Because if you start to focus on, like, man, my toes hurt, my legs hurt, my feet hurt, when you start to vocalize those things, that's when they really start to become real. So it's one thing to think about it. It's another thing to speak about it and put it out there. Trevor Moawad is a mental performance coach who unfortunately has passed away, but he wrote a book called It Takes What It Takes, and he talks about the exact same concept, where it's not just about positive thinking, it's about getting to neutral thinking, which is just not saying those negative things that you're saying in your head out loud. So you can't give your pain a voice. The second thing that he talked about is like, you got to take quitting off the table. So in a race where it's a last man standing format, you never die in the chair. You never quit when you're sitting down. You either just time out on the course, or you get injured. And so that was one of the second things that he talked about to Jesse. And the third thing is every single lap, every single time you complete a lap, you talk about one thing that you're grateful for. So you don't give your pain a voice. You take quitting off the table, and you focus on one thing that you're grateful for. And that's why the words that you speak matter, especially in a race. But this is also a concept that applies to entrepreneurship. It applies to our goals. The words that we speak matter. Then one of the next things that he talked about as he's looking back at his napkin is his life story in 6 words or less. I don't remember exactly where this comes from, but I have heard it before. And it's basically like, can you summarize your life story in 6 words or less? And I don't know if you've tried this before. It's actually pretty challenging. I haven't 100% nailed mine yet. Once I do, I'm going to put it out there. I'll probably do a separate episode on this. But what is your life story in 6 words or less? Jesse has put this out there that his is blessed with family, friends, and adventure. Blessed with family, friends, and adventure. And you can see when you put it out there in your life story, it starts to have you really focus on what are the things that actually matter for me. So if you're watching this, if you're listening to this, start to think about, how can I summarize my life story in 6 words or less, and send it to me. Let me know what yours is. Once I put mine together, like I said, I'll do a separate podcast episode on this. And that was one of the things that he had on his napkin. And then the last thing was the 6th thing on his napkin of his "My life is my message." He talked about how simple can be extraordinary. And he learned this lesson from his dad. And like, his dad was a very simple man, but he felt like because he was so simple, that's why he stood out. Like, so many people want to have these big, lavish, extravagant things. His dad had a very simple business. He loved to play checkers with him. And it was because of those simple challenges of playing checkers with each other that he stood out, and he felt like he was extraordinary. So those were like the 6 different takeaways that he had from his "My life is my message" speech. And I just wanted to share it with you because he is one of the top speakers in the world. Obviously, I didn't do it justice by just quickly recapping these, but I hope that there's 1 or 2 things that you can hear and you can think about, how can I apply this to my life? If that's figuring out what is your word for the year, if that's thinking about what is your relationship with time, if that's thinking about what is the difference between can and will, and not just can you get something done, but will you? If it's focusing on the words that you're using and knowing that the words that you speak matter, or if it's trying to figure out what is your life story in 6 words or less, or if it's that last one of knowing that simple can be extraordinary. So that is what I have for today. I hope that this helps. I hope that this starts to shift your mindset towards another level of high performance. And if you want to kind of learn more about how I can help you in your high performance journey, if that's through working on your mindset, if that's for implementing routines and systems, then send me a message, comment below, book a call, and we'll make it happen. So that's what I have for today, and we'll see you in the next one.